Description: on the fateful night when Madara freed the fox and attacked Konoha, Naruto loses his father and also loses one eye. But it doesn't matter, instead of the lost organ, the newborn boy is implanted with the enemy's Sharingan. The story is about a different Naruto, who looks at the world not through rose-colored glasses, but through the uncompromising lens of the all-seeing Sharingan. Prologue. Minato looked at the masked man standing in front of him with a trembling gaze. He, the fourth Hokage, was shaking with fear. Not for my life, no. For the lives of his newly born son, who was held in the arms of a stranger, and his wife, exhausted from childbirth. Even before the masked man spoke, Minato knew that nothing good could be expected from him. The ANBU wouldn't let anyone through, so they were dead. The fourth Hokage. Minato. The stranger spoke in a hoarse bass voice. Get away from the Jinchuriki! Otherwise, a kunai flashed in his free hand. Your son will die without living even a minute. Namikaze frantically wondered what to do. He couldn't let this man take his wife. And not just because she was the love of his life. There was a nine-tailed fox demon sealed inside it, and as the head of the village hidden in the leaves, he could not allow such power to fall into the hands of the enemy. But he also couldn't abandon his newborn son. What to do? Meanwhile, the stranger was tired of waiting. He placed a kunai against the little boy's right temple and pulled it down with force. A terrible childish squeal was heard, from which Minato lost the ground from under his feet. He watched with pain in his heart as his little, newly born son, bleeding, suffered in the hands of the enemy. What are you doing, you bastard? Namikaze exclaimed with anger. He's a little child. Get away from the Jinchuriki. The masked man repeated. Otherwise your son will lose his life right after his eye. Minato didn't move. The stranger, realizing that the Hokage was quite ready to make the most difficult decision for him, hit the package in his hands with a kunai. But the blade only pierced the void. It's not for nothing that they called you Yellow Lightning, the stranger said quietly, glancing over his shoulder at Minato, who managed to use his technique to snatch his son from the hands of the blackmailer. And what next? Minato noticed in time that explosive seals were attached to his son's diapers, and this gave him one single chance to travel with his son as far as possible. He made it in time, although the explosion was a bit short, but he still got it. Are you okay, Naruto? Minato whispered, hugging his son to him. Oh, holy heavens, what he did to you! The Hokage, concentrating a little chakra on his fingers, carefully ran them over his son's right eye socket, in which dried blood had collected. Having treated the wound a little, he sighed and was transported to the hospital. Rest, Naruto, said the Hokage, following the medical ninja who had taken his son with his eyes. And I'll go help out your mother. Minato managed to snatch Kushina from the clutches of inevitable death. But moments before, the masked man broke the seal that held the fox, and he broke free. He saved his wife, but now he had to save the village from the Nine Tails, who had already begun to destroy Konoha. And Minato would have already entered into battle with him, if not for this unfamiliar shinobi, who carried him away from the battlefield. The Hokage understood his plan. First he uses his son to separate him and Kushina. Then he releases the demon and engages Minato himself in battle. And while he is fighting, the fox destroys Konoha. But why he arranged all this, the fourth had no idea. But he began to guess who was in front of him. A ninja who used space-time techniques, who managed to deal with the ANBU of the third, who subdued the Nine Tails in order to destroy Leaf with his help. It could only be one person. You are an Uchiha, Madara, Minato said. The masked man only let out an affirmative grunt. And why do you need to destroy the leaf? Yes. Madara spread his hands. It's just fun. Although, this is all part of my plan. Start a war, bring peace. But none of you will see this anymore. Madara rushed to attack, and Minato did not take long to wait either. The fourth knew that if he simply attacked, his opponent would become incorporeal in order to let his attack pass through him, as he had done before. The only chance was to attack during his own counterattack, when he completely materialized. And he had a plan. In a split second, Minato pulled out a kunai and threw it at his opponent. As expected, the projectile passed through his forehead without encountering any obstacle. But when Madara was ready to attack the fourth, he suddenly disappeared, and the Uchiha received an incredible blow right in the back. The indomitable power of the Rasengan, the masked shinobi, was literally slammed into the ground. "You really are strong, fourth," Madara croaked, spitting blood from under his broken mask. But he didn't have time to finish. Minato quickly stabbed him with a kunai right into his heart. The enemy was wounded and did not have time to gather himself to use his dematerializing technique. Feeling that the last drops of life had flowed out of Madara's body, Minato sighed tiredly. He did not remove the kunai from the wound. He had the mark of his technique on him, so he easily carried the body of the shinobi he killed to ANBU headquarters. They might be interested in him. And now it was necessary to deal with the fox. We must try to seal him before he destroys everything that he, as a person and as Hokage, was obligated to protect. Minato and Kushina, who came to his aid, managed to bind the fox. But it was no longer possible to seal it. Kushina was still too weak to accept the Kyuubi again. Therefore, the fourth originally wanted to use the death god sealing technique by sealing half of the fox's chakra in himself and dying with it, and the other half in his newly born son Naruto. But things didn't go according to plan. The insidious Ninetales, fearing that he would be made a prisoner again, managed to absorb a huge amount of natural chakra. If they tried to seal it now, the Jinchuriki would simply be torn apart. Minato had already sent half of the Kyuubi's powers to the world of death, and had almost sealed the other half of the fox into his son when he realized this. With all his strength, he pulled the demon spirit out of Naruto and back outside. "Minato?" Kushina called in surprise. "Why did you stop? This won't help. It will only kill Naruto. It can't be sealed now. I'll have to." Without finishing, he used his last strength to use his spatial technique to transfer his wife and son to Konoha, away from here. "I will die with you, fox." Minato shouted loudly to the chained demon. "I will be reborn again, Hokage," he roared in response. "I know," Minato nodded. "But my son will live. When you return, he will be an adult. And he will defeat you completely, Kyuubi. And now we will die." Death God technique. The horizon was flooded with bright light, turning night into day. Shinobi, not sparing their eyes, restlessly peered into the distance, to where their leader was fighting. But then the light went out, and the night regained its rights. And there was deathly silence all around. An hour later, a pair of battered ANBU burst into the third Hokage's office. Their return was eagerly awaited not only by the old man Sarutobi himself, but also by 3 elders, several members of the military police, as well as a tearful Kushina with her son in her arms, who flatly refused to go to the hospital until news of her husband arrived. She understood perfectly well that Minato could not survive after using that technique, but still in her heart she wanted to believe that her beloved was alive. "I report, Hokage-sama." One of them spoke. The fourth Hokage-sama dealt with Kyuubi. "Apparently the demon is dead. What about Minato?" "He too," the ANBU said sadly. "I see," sighed the third. "Minato sacrificed his own life to save the village. He acted like a real hero." "I agree," one of the elders nodded. "It's just a pity that we lost Kyuubi." "Danzo," Sarutobi tiredly besieged him. "You heard Kushina, it was impossible to seal him." "Yes, I know." Danzo waved his hand in annoyance. "It's just that after this incident we are up to our ears in shit. The Ninetales is lost to us, besides, he will soon be reborn. But the villagers are alive." Another elder, Hamiura, interrupted him. "And all this thanks to Minato. Moreover, if my memory serves me correctly, it will take many years, if not decades, to revive the fox. We will have time to prepare. I'm much more concerned about the person who attacked us. If he didn't act alone." "Hamiura-sama." The captain of the military police, Fugaku, stepped forward. "Uchiha, I doubt it. We have identified the attacker. This is Uchiha Tobirama, a renegade shinobi, one of the descendants of those Uchiha who followed Madara's path and left Konoha. He is an S-rank criminal. Little is known about him, but what we do know is that he always works alone. If you say so, Fugaku, nodded the third. That means it is so. Let's assume that until the Ninetales returns, our village is safe. At dawn, our spies will go to the places of his possible appearance. After a short silence, Danzo took the floor again. Sarutobi, have you considered my request? Will you give me the body of this apostate? We must study it. If we understand exactly how he subjugated the fox, it will greatly help us in the future. The third was about to answer, but suddenly Kushina spoke. Her voice was very quiet, but at the same time her tone was undeniable. That bastard took something from my son, she said with tears, gently running her finger over Naruto's wounded eye. And I want this Tobirama, or whatever his name is, to return the debt to Naruto, even after death. Fugaku, do you mind? The Hokage turned to the head of the Uchiha clan. Still, after all, he was killed from your clan, even if he did not belong to Konoha. Of course, I don't mind, Fugaku exclaimed. It would be an honor for me if the son of my friend, the fourth Hokage, who saved us all, receives the Sharingan. Let it be so, Sarutobi said. Kushina, go with Naruto to the hospital. I will warn the doctors about everything. They will be waiting for you. Thus began the story of Naruto, heir to the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans. On this bloody night he received life, but knew death. I lost my father, but found the selfless love of my mother. He lost his light blue eye, but received the Sharingan in return. Chapter 1. Naruto stood and watched with the indifferent gaze of his left eye as a decent line of people moved towards the ninja academy. Parents took their children to their first lesson in their lives. And Naruto could be among them. Maybe you'll change your mind after all, son? Kushina snuck up behind him and gently wrapped her arms around him. Don't you want to go to study at the academy with the rest of the guys? Naruto, adjusting the bandage covering his right eye, shrugged his shoulders irritably. What should I do there, Mom? Can they teach me anything that I haven't already learned from you? Kushina sighed sadly. Of course, everything again came down to new knowledge. Naruto didn't want to consider anything that wouldn't make him stronger. But you will make friends at the academy. Did not work. Naruto just smiled skeptically, adjusting his bandage out of habit. He always did this when he was irritated or angry. And Kushina could only tell by this gesture when her son was dissatisfied, for he had excellent self-control. Mom, I don't need this, he quietly objected. The life of a shinobi is a series of dangers that will certainly end in death. I don't want anyone to worry about me or for anyone to get hurt because of me. If I don't have close friends, then when I carry out the tasks of the village, I won't be tormented by my conscience if I have to leave someone to die. As well as my comrades if I have to sacrifice myself. Naruto, don't say that anymore, his mother gently reproached him. Okay, Mom, the boy agreed too quickly. Well, let's go home. You promised to show me a couple more seals. So, when Naruto turned 8, and all his peers went to the academy, he himself stayed at home, learning ninja skills from his mother. No, there was nothing surprising in such a practice. The same Hyuga trained every second representative of the clan themselves. But the reason why the boy did not want to study with his peers was different. He was simply unsociable. He saw no need to communicate with anyone other than his mother, godfather the legendary Sannin Jiraiya, who visited them occasionally, and some neighbors. He did not try to make contact, closing himself off to himself and his training. And, surprisingly, everyone understood him and tried not to touch him. After all, every resident of the village knew his father, as well as what he, the fourth Hokage, did. And no one blamed his son for wanting to become stronger. After all, to those narrow-minded people who nevertheless came up and asked the little boy why he trained so much, Naruto answered without emotion. I want to be strong. Strong enough to protect my village. At any cost. Everyone who heard this understood what the boy was talking about. His mother did not hide from her son how Minato died, Naruto was proud of his father. But he wanted to surpass him in order to be able to finally remove from Konoha all threats that could arise in the future. This was his goal, to make sure his father's death was not in vain. That is why he, sparing no effort, studied more and more new jutsu. And the Sharingan helped him in this. Naruto loved his right eye. He knew that it was transplanted into him from the body of an enemy who was responsible for the attack on Konoha, and this made him angry at first. As if the crazy renegade was still somewhere nearby, waiting, hidden in ambush. But his kind mother soon explained to him that he should not think badly about what had become a part of him almost from birth. Consider this a gift from Dad for your birthday. And Naruto began to think so. And most importantly, he began to use the power of the Sharingan. At first, Kushina thought about asking their family friend Fugaku Uchiha or her husband's former student, Kakashi, teach the boy to use the power of his eye. Moreover, these two themselves transparently hinted to her that it would be nice for the boy to start using his gift. But when Naruto, during one of his training sessions, repeated the substitution technique after his mother the first time, Kushina changed her mind about asking for a teacher for her son. The boy, who had lived his entire life with an activated Sharingan, instinctively used it in battle. When Fugaku and Kakashi heard about this, they just shrugged their shoulders. There was nothing surprising here. The Sharingan was just an eye that allowed you to see all the movements of the enemy, and if it was activated, then there was nothing complicated about it. The main thing is to train your reflexes and your body in order to have time to do what you need to do with the knowledge gained through this dojutsu. Which, in fact, Naruto did perfectly. The Sharingan also played a serious role in the fact that Naruto flatly refused to go to the academy. Thanks to him, the boy, having trained seriously since the age of 5, managed to copy from his mother literally all the techniques that could be taught there. Like several dozen others. Naruto himself considered the pinnacle of his skill to be his talent for summoning countless shadow clones, as well as the technique created by his father, the Rinnegan. According to his godfather, Minato spent more than 2 years creating this technique. Naruto, again thanks to the Sharingan, comprehended it in a day. And now, when Jiraiya came to visit Uzumaki, the great ninja and his godson engaged in a heated battle, measuring the strength of this technique. This is how Uzumaki grew up. Naruto, Sharingan bearer, son of the 4th Hokage, future shinobi Konoha. Chapter 2. Naruto loved spending time in the forest. It was so quiet and calm here that only here could the boy forget about any problems and just relax. When Uzumaki was not busy training at home, he would certainly break out here, choosing a tree for himself and meditating on it for a long time, listening only to the whisper of the wind and the rustling of leaves. He was not afraid of the dangers that could await him in the thicket. Naruto appeared here so often that all the surrounding predators tried to avoid him, otherwise there was a risk of adding to the boy's collection, which he had collected from sealed animals. But now it wasn't the forest dwellers who interrupted Naruto's meditation. He listened and realized that he was not mistaken. He heard the tramp of human feet. Jumping from tree to tree, the boy moved towards the sound that interested him. And soon he found its source. A girl was running along the path towards the village. Naruto couldn't see all of her, just her short, dark blue hair. And there was no time to look at her, because 5 were running after her at once. Uzumaki doubted that their intentions towards this girl were good, so he followed them at full speed. Suddenly the girl tripped over a stone and fell, sprawled on the ground. Her pursuers surrounded her, laughing contentedly. "What a little devil!" said one of them, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Small, but runs fast." "Grab her already!" muttered the one who stood a little behind. Apparently, the main one. "We must hurry. If Konoha ninjas notice us, we will be in trouble." "Come on!" the other one burst out in response. "The task is easier than expected. We didn't even have to penetrate Konohagakure to get the Byakugan." With these words he moved towards the girl, and had already extended his hand to her, when suddenly a blurry shadow flashed in front of him, which, taking their prey with it, disappeared. "What the hell?" The shinobi shook their heads. "Where did she go?" Naruto landed with the girl in his arms about 30 meters away from them. He managed to snatch the victim from the clutches of the kidnappers, but the training was not in vain. Now, having looked at the girl, he recognized her. This was the eldest daughter of the head of the Hyuga clan, Hinata. His mother told him that the Hyuga are one of the strongest clans in the village, and also that many are hunting for their family dojutsu, the Byakugan. Naruto looked into the girl's white eyes. It seems that the unknown shinobi came for them. Who are you? The girl whispered in fear. My name is Naruto. Uzumaki answered her, carefully lowering her to the ground. I won't harm you. They were chasing me. The girl sniffled. I decided to take a short walk in the forest after the academy, when suddenly I was attacked. For what? Why do they need me? Naruto didn't answer her. Rising to his feet, he immediately moved towards the kidnappers. Sit here for a while, he said over his shoulder. I'll figure it out, and we'll go to the village. The boy was angry, and at the same time he was shaking with excitement. Finally, he will be able to test himself in a real battle, with real enemies. How long had he waited for this? He couldn't wait to fight them. Besides, these 5 disgusted him to the core. Not because they were enemies, no. They are grown men, they dared to attack a defenseless little girl. And even though this Hyuga was his age, or just a little younger, she could not compete with adult shinobi. Who else is this? One of the 5 asked warily. They finally noticed Naruto, who was approaching them with a confident step. Yes, he has a girl. The shinobi grinned, drawing kunai. For them, the boy's life was worthless. They attacked him without unnecessary emotions to kill him. Except this wasn't just another child in front of them. Naruto was in front of them. Uzumaki. The taijutsu with which they hoped to take him did not work in the very first seconds of the battle. The boy successfully avoided all their attacks, effectively counterattacking. 5 adult ninjas simply could not keep up with Naruto, who, among other things, trained his speed as best he could during classes. His dream was to master the Flying Thunder God technique that his father possessed, and to do this he had to become very fast. But he had not yet mastered it, and now it was unnecessary. After another missed series of blows, the shinobi could not stand it. Earth technique. Burglary of the firmament. Naruto watched in slight surprise as the ground near the shinobi broke and the crack began to move straight towards him. He moved to the side in one jump, but other enemies also did not sit still. The 2 made seals familiar to Naruto on their fingers. Element of fire. Fireball. And again the boy had to use all his dexterity to avoid 2 clots of flame aimed at him at once. He realized that this battle would be serious. So he lifted his headband up. When the shinobi saw Naruto's right eye, they were dumbfounded. Fight against the Sharingan? This was no joke. Although in front of them was just a boy, well, why did you get up? The leader roared. Forward! We will get not only the Byakugan, but also the Sharingan. Naruto's opponents nodded in agreement, and having gathered, attacked him at the same time. Basically, they had fire and earth techniques, and they also had numerical superiority on their side. But if Naruto kept up with them when his right eye was closed, then when the Sharingan saw the light, he could not be stopped at all. He seemed to read the thoughts of his enemies, predicting their every move. Not a single attack, be it a huge fireball, boulders bursting out of nowhere, or fiery spray that engulfed him from all sides, caused him any damage. He was elusive to everything. When, finally, the shinobi got him with a joint attack, an even greater surprise awaited them. The boy they hit disappeared into thin air. What? Clone? Yeah. A boyish voice came from behind the commander. He managed to turn around, but only to be hit with a stream of wildly rotating chakra right in his chest. Spinning in the air, the poor fellow was thrown off the road several meters, towards the trees. Who are you? One of the shinobi bleated in a voice shaking with panic. Uzumaki. Naruto. The boy answered in an indifferent tone, creating another Rasengan sphere in his palm. And your death. He stepped towards him and hit him in the stomach with a swing. Despite his words, he still softened his blow at the very end. Already raising the rinnegan, he noticed that the girl, whom he had snatched from the clutches of these ninjas, was constantly watching him. He thought that she shouldn't see so much cruelty. Although he immediately added to himself that dead shinobi simply would not be of any use. Yes, exactly. He was motivated only by the pragmatism of a real ninja. And nothing more. And definitely not the tearful look of this girl. Quickly driving away frivolous thoughts, Naruto, dodging fists and legs, killed 2 more with rinnegans from both hands, knocking them to the ground and literally slamming them into it. He was about to kick the last one in the nuts, when suddenly the shinobi fell to his knees and began to cry. "I beg you, have mercy! I'm just a mercenary, don't kill me, please! You came to my village with evil intentions," Naruto said quietly, still maintaining a whirlwind of chakra in his palm. "You tried to kill me. But I will let you live, is it true?" He babbled with a happy smile. Shinobi. "Yeah," Naruto nodded. "But I will not forgive you for attacking this girl." Naruto couldn't see, but Hinata blushed very red at his words. "You promised!" the shinobi bleated in a shaking voice. "I promised. You will really live?" Naruto bared his teeth, and approaching him, whispered in his ear. "But very soon you yourself will be begging for death. I think you've heard of Ibiki Marino?" Uzumaki no longer saw the need to talk to the prisoner. He achieved the desired effect. Clenching the unnecessary rinnegan in his fist, he walked away from the enemy who had put his pants in his pants a few steps, after which he took out a scroll from his pouch. It was covered with various symbols that outlined several empty circles. Throwing the scroll in front of a bunch of incapacitated opponents, Naruto stamped a dog, a monkey, a dragon, a tiger, and a dragon on his fingers. Seal technique, cage seal. There was a bang and everything around was filled with clouds of smoke. When it dissipated, there were no people on earth. The girl looked in shock at where her kidnappers had just been. Turning her surprised gaze to the boy, who, as if nothing had happened, had rolled up the scroll and was already walking towards her, she whispered, "Naruto-kun, let's go to the village." The boy helped her get up. "Otherwise they're probably already looking for you." Hinata said nothing in response and just smiled shyly. She looked at him shyly, but was silent, and Naruto didn't get into her soul. If he wants to talk, he will say something. He himself was not an expert at weaving conversations. The main thing now was to escort her to Konoha, otherwise heaven forbid, Hayashi Hyuga will raise the entire village to its feet. Not bad," the old man said, watching the boy and girl from his office into the crystal. Smacking his pipe, he coughed meaningfully, and a masked man immediately appeared in front of him. "Yes, Hokage-sama? Call off the ANBU who were sent to search for Hayashi's daughter," said the third Hokage, getting up from the table and walking around the office. "And tell Kushina that when her son comes home, I want to see him. Let him send him to me." "Everything will be done, Hokage-sama," the ANBU answered, bowing, and then disappeared. "You have become strong, Naruto," the Hokage muttered to himself, looking at the boy through the crystal, lightly adjusting the bandage on his right eye. Chapter 3. Naruto didn't quite understand what he was doing in the Hokage's office. But since the village head wanted to see him, he could not refuse. Therefore, all he could do was stand silently in front of Old Man Third, who looked at him with an interested look, puffing on his pipe. "I would like to thank you, Naruto," the Hokage finally spoke. "What you did in the forest is truly a feat. You acted bravely by standing up for Hinata." "It's not worth it," he answered in a neutral tone. "I did what every shinobi would do in my place." "That's right." According to Naruto, the old man said this somehow not too confidently. "But you're still a child, Naruto, and you're not afraid to fight 5 adult ninjas. This is an act you can be proud of." Naruto just nodded, looking the Hokage straight in the eyes. And what is he holding out for? It couldn't be that the third gave him an audience just to say, "Thank you"? Hyuga's whole family had already thanked him. He's had enough. "You're probably wondering why I invited you," old Sarutobi guessed. The boy nodded, to which he smiled. "I wanted to give this to you personally." He took out from his desk drawer a brand new headband with a steel protector on which the leaf symbol glittered. Naruto looked slightly surprised from the thing to the old man and back. But why? I thought I had to graduate from the academy to get the bandage. If I'm not mistaken, it is given along with the rank of genin. You're right. The Hokage nodded affirmatively. And by giving it to you, I officially accept you as a shinobi Konoha. Naruto. Seeing even greater surprise on the boy's face, he decided to explain. Your abilities were enough to defeat several opponents whose rank was not lower than Chunin. If you continue to be left idle, your talents will simply go to waste. So, after receiving the bandage, I will carry out missions? Exactly. But do genin carry out missions in teams under the guidance of mentors? That's right. The Hokage did not deny. But I'm not going to waste your skills on low-level tasks. You will be entrusted with tasks of rank no lower than CV, but are they performed in groups? And I'm used to fighting alone. The old man smiled broadly at his statement, after which he walked with measured steps towards the wall on which weapons and equipment hung. Taking from her a mask depicting a grinning tanuki, he threw it to the boy. Hokage-sama, Naruto said in a voice hoarse with excitement, his saucer eyes staring at the mask. Do you want to make me an ANBU? No. The Hokage shook his head. And at the same time, yes. You won't officially be an ANBU, at least not yet. But you will become my confidant, like all of them. I will personally assign missions to you, and you will report only to me. You will wear a mask rather for safety. Still, if the enemies find out that the son of the fourth Hokage goes on missions alone, they will start hunting for you. That is, I will be a genin, performing special tasks for the Hokage. Old man Sarutobi finished for him, nodding. The appearance of Konoha's ANBU will not only protect your identity, but in some cases will scare away enemies from you. Well, do you agree? Naruto smiled sincerely, something he did and do often in his life, and put on his mask. Of course, came the tanuki's fangs. Protecting the village and its inhabitants is my dream. And now that it has begun to come true, I will protect Konoha from any enemies at any cost. You can go, Naruto. The third nodded contentedly. Just before that, take off and hide the mask. But put on the bandage. It will suit you very well. The boy nodded and threw off the piece of cloth that covered his Sharingan. Another Uzumaki was leaving the Hokage residence, Naruto. This Naruto was a full-fledged shinobi of the village hidden in the leaves. Kushina was overjoyed when she learned that her son received the shinobi headband as a reward for his deed. She wanted to throw a party in honor of such an event, but Naruto flatly refused, and she had to make do with a small dinner, in which, however, Jiraiya took part. The Sannin sincerely praised the boy, after which he immediately called him to spar. Naruto himself wasn't exactly happy. He felt more satisfaction than joy. Now that his small goal had been achieved, he could begin to fulfill the big one to protect the village. And even though he would not yet be entrusted with the hunt for S-rank criminals, Naruto understood that any task he completed would strengthen the position of the village. And for the sake of the prosperity of Konoha, he was ready to lay down his life. When Naruto showed up on the street the next day, the eyes of all passers-by were riveted on him. People looked with sincere smiles at the boy everyone knew, who, as always, hid his right eye by lowering the blindfold over it. Only now it was a ninja headband, telling everyone that its owner was a shinobi Konoha. Congratulations, Naruto! They shouted at him from all sides. Good luck to you! Congratulations! Well done! If Uzumaki had not been able to control himself, then his cheeks would undoubtedly have already become the same color as his mother's hair. But still, he would be lying if he said that such an attitude was completely unpleasant to him. Even though he was a recluse who didn't pay attention to other people, he understood that everything he would do as a ninja, he would do for them first and foremost. Suddenly a tall old man in a black robe appeared in front of him. Naruto recognized this stern elder who had visited their home a couple of times. Hello, Danzo-san, he greeted the elder respectfully. Hello, Naruto. Danzo rarely addressed anyone so softly. And the smile with which he spoke could be remembered only a few times. You did a great job there in the forest. Konoha cannot allow the Byakugan to fall into enemy hands. I realize that. Naruto nodded. He understood perfectly what Danzo was talking about. His ideas were close to him in spirit, and he completely agreed with many of his thoughts. But according to the mother stories, the head of the Root ANBU, the training unit that the elder himself created, had two harsh methods. Even Naruto, who in his heart understood the need to make tough decisions, still believed that Danzo's paths were too straightforward. The boy respected Shimura very much Danzo, but still believed that it was possible to protect Konohagakure using more flexible methods, which, in any case, would not lead to too many casualties. I fully support the Hokage's decision to make you a full-fledged shinobi, Danzo said. Your talents will be useful to Konoha. I'm sure of it. The boy nodded. Then Naruto noticed that behind Danzo were two boys, about his age, one with long ashen hair, the other with short black hair. Okay, we have to go, Danzo said, and nodding to Uzumaki he moved on. Then one of the ANBU appeared in front of the elder and spoke something in his ear. After listening to his subordinate, Danzo nodded, and then turned to the boys who were with him. I need to go urgently, so come back. Training will tomorrow. Yes, Danzo-sama, the boys exclaimed in one voice, and obediently turning around, trudged back. When they caught up with Naruto, they looked at him in surprise. What? Naruto drawled, looking from one to the other. You're Naruto Uzumaki, right? Asked the one with black hair. Danzo-sama told us about you. He said that we should follow your example. Yes, the boy with ashen hair nodded. He said that we should train a lot, and then we can become real shinobi. He's right. Naruto shrugged. Shinobi must be strong. Here he stopped and looked at both guys. You already know my name. What's your name? I'm Sin. The ashen one hit himself on the chest. The second boy just sighed sadly. I don't know what my name is. My parents died when I was very young. But Danzo-sama said that the fact that I don't remember him is even better. The fewer things that make me emotional, the stronger a ninja I will be. Naruto just shook his head at that. This was one of the few things he disagreed with Danzo about. He's wrong here. The boys gasped in fear at his words. It seems that they could not even imagine that their master could be wrong about anything. Yes, when a ninja completes a task, he becomes a living weapon in the hands of his village. But he must remain human, because this is the only way he cannot forget what he lives and fights for. And the name is the first thing that distinguishes us from others, makes us individual, makes us human. The black-haired boy sadly lowered his head onto his shoulders, and a few tears rolled down from his dark eyes. Naruto, realizing that he had unwittingly caused him pain, decided to immediately correct himself. Having chalked the seal of purification on his palm, he, to the surprise of both boys, touched the black-haired man's forehead. Of course, it was not the Yamanaka technique, but still. Your name is Sai, he answered after a while, rubbing his temples. In any case, this is the name that is spinning in your subconscious. Usually this is the name given to us at birth by our parents. Sai, the black-haired man whispered, as if tasting the name, then smiled. And I like it. Me too. Sin nodded. Thank you, Naruto-kun. The black-haired man thanked, extending his hand, which the boy immediately shook. Now I know who I am. This is important to me. Having said goodbye to his new acquaintances, Naruto moved on, quickening his pace. Even though the Hokage was in no hurry in the message he sent, asking him to come in when he had time, he still shouldn't have been kept waiting. Chapter 4. Naruto, as always, appeared in the Hokage's office unnoticed. The third had just opened the window to let fresh air into the room, and now a child's figure was bending in front of him. Hokage-sama, mission accomplished, came clearly from under the mask. The boy took out a scroll from his belt and handed it to the Hokage. Reports from the border with the country of Rice. Were there any problems? No. The boy shook his head negatively. The third one looked strangely towards the wall, expressing his confusion. Naruto, realizing that lying was pointless, sighed. On the way, I was attacked by several shinobi, he admitted. I told you there were no problems. Old man Sarutobi shook his head wearily. How, after 2 years, he was tormented by this phrase from Uzumaki. There were no problems. From every mission he returned from, the report was the same. And Sarutobi knew why Naruto answered like that. He really handled everything with ease. Although the third himself understood that he was entrusting the boy with tasks that were too easy for him. He felt that Naruto was furious inside, delivering messages, even very important and secret ones, or clearing some villages from the robbers who had settled there. But Sarutobi stoically continued to give him tasks of rank no higher than B. True, it happened that, thanks to his luck, Naruto, taking a task of level B or even C, ended up at rank A, or even higher. For example, when a boy 6 months ago was delivering a monthly report to the Hokage daimyo about the situation on the borders of the Country of Fire, he was attacked by Anbu of the Hidden Forest. With difficulty, but thanks to his numerous abilities, Naruto managed to escape, while killing half a dozen enemies. Another example was the battle with bandits in the village of Katabami. The third, responding to the pleas of the local residents, as well as Naruto's gloomy dissatisfaction with his courier activities, sent the boy there. He could not even imagine that the leader of those ordinary-looking bandits would be Raiga Kurasuke, S-rank criminal, former swordsman of the mist. True, he only found out about this when Naruto threw Kurasuke's dead body out of the scroll right under the Hokage's feet. Of course, having said that, there were no problems. Okay. The Hokage nodded. I have a new task for you. The third couldn't see the boy's face, but he could tell with certainty that Naruto grimaced in disdain. What needs to be delivered this time? He asked with a slight touch of sarcasm. Nothing this time. The old man answered with a satisfied smile, which aroused Naruto's surprise and interest. This time, I am consciously entrusting you with a rank A mission. Naruto swallowed in anticipation, waiting for the details. This is what he has been waiting for all 2 years, a real mission. No, he, of course, understood that the delivery of secret documents, reports, and important correspondence was a very serious job, especially since he often had to protect these same documents from completely out-of-touch enemies. But he wanted a truly challenging task, one that would require him to use all his abilities. And now a rank A mission. Your task will be to identify a spy in Konoha. The third continued in the meantime. The ANBU intercepted several messages from the village, which described in detail our defense system. He looked sternly at the boy. It is very serious. Passing on such information to a potential enemy could cause serious damage to Konoha. I understand. Naruto nodded. And I'm ready. But answer me, Hokage-sama, why me? Isn't this the work of real ANBU? The ANBU are busy investigating who exactly that information was intended for, answered the third. Besides, there is some clue for your investigation. The spy is a teacher at the academy. Naruto looked up at the old man. It looks like he wasn't joking. Although it was strange that one of the teachers turned out to be the enemy, because all of them are checked by the military police before their appointment. Where does this information come from? A scroll with secret information was included in the academy's correspondence, to which only teachers had access. What all? That's it, the Hokage confirmed. Uzumaki whistled involuntarily. How many suspects are there? There are about 10 class teachers, plus the same number of trainee assistants. 20 suspects. He shook his head disapprovingly. Besides, I don't know any of them personally. It will be difficult. That's why I'm sending you, and not someone from the ANBU, the Hokage noted. Go to the academy, take a closer look at the suspects. Your appearance will raise fewer questions than adults hanging around nearby. That's right, Naruto was forced to admit. But can I get some help? At least personal matters? You can't. Sarutobi took out a stack of folders from his desk drawer, which he handed over to Naruto. You can also involve your team. Just don't catch Shimura's eye. he added with a smile. And then he swore at you very much again. You can be free. Naruto bowed and then disappeared as quietly as he had appeared. You can come out. The Hokage threw towards the wall. Immediately, an ANBU separated from the shadows. Report, Itachi. The Hokage sighed tiredly. How many attackers were there and who were they? Itachi the Uchiha took off his mask. Naruto was attacked by about a dozen shinobi, all of them are renegades. The guy reported briefly. As always, in general, I didn't have to interfere. The Hokage nodded thoughtfully, looking through the guy. Still, he thought his idea of assigning ANBU to Naruto was very good. So the son of the fourth Hokage was always under supervision, and if any unforeseen circumstances happened, he would be able to take control of the situation. Of course, it was stupid to waste the strength of such a strong shinobi as Itachi on simply spying on Naruto, but still, the third believed that the boy's life was more valuable than the tasks that the Uchiha could complete. In addition, Itachi had long shown a desire to leave ANBU, so the third decided to give the boy a transition period, so to speak. Moreover, the Hokage had plans for him. Itachi, how do you look at becoming Naruto's mentor? Itachi, without changing his face at all, shrugged. What should I teach him? He was taught by Jiraiya-san himself, and I am far from him. Besides, I'm too young to be someone's sensei. You're wrong, objected the third. You are a talented shinobi, and you have a lot of experience. Plus, you can teach Naruto a lot about the Sharingan. And after leaving ANBU, it would be nice for you, as a Zenin, to get a team. But in my opinion, Naruto is better than 3 newly minted genin, he said with a sly face. But if you insist, okay, I agree. Itachi answered quickly. Will I teach only him? No. The Hokage smiled slyly. Not only. Naruto, already without a mask, was walking along the path towards the house and reading one of the cases, when a black and white painted tiger flew out from around the corner at him. Passers-by watched the creature with a restless glance, but did not react in any way. Nevertheless, this picture was not new to them. And rightly so. The next moment Naruto, without looking up from reading, grabbed a scroll with seals from his belt with one hand. Seal cage, he muttered under his breath, and the inky beast was pulled into the scroll. Naruto did not stop reading, even when 2 boys in black jackets appeared nearby and began to beat him with their hands and feet. Even without the Sharingan and with his left eye occupied, he dodged all the attacks. Launch! Naruto put his hand in front of him, and both boys stopped dead in their tracks. Hello, Sai-Sin. Naruto-kun, Sai said without moving his lips. Really again? Yes, Sai, answered Naruto. Sin. We can't move. So we have stamps on our backs. Crap. Looking at these boys, Naruto involuntarily smiled at the corners of his lips. Over the course of 2 years, he got along well with these two. Naruto tried not to advertise it, but he could confidently call Sai and Shin his friends. Of course, he didn't say this out loud. But when you have fun and well with someone, when this someone is able to support you in difficult times, and you yourself are ready to protect him, no matter what the cost, isn't that friendship? Besides, Naruto even managed to prove the latter. About a year ago, with nothing better to do, he followed his friends and their sensei Danzo to the place where their training was supposed to take place. Imagine Uzumaki's surprise when the elder, in all seriousness, ordered both to kill each other. Sai and Sin, although not blood relatives, due to the fact that both were orphans, considered each other brothers. And they were ordered to either kill their own brother or both of them die. The situation was hopeless, and their blades were already rushing towards their unwanted victim, when suddenly Naruto stood between them, stopping both blades with his bare hands. What are you doing? Danzo shouted then. By what right do you interrupt us? Danzo-sama, Naruto answered respectfully, although at that very moment his respect for the elder diminished. Let them go, or I'll kill you. Danzo was taken aback by this statement. He understood that the boy was not joking, since he had already raised the headband, and the Sharingan was looking at the elder. What are you doing, Naruto? Danzo grumbled disapprovingly. These two belong to Root. They belong to Konoha. Uzumaki interrupted him. And in military terms, a couple of promising ninjas are much more valuable than an old man, who, moreover, uses forbidden training adopted from his enemies. A shinobi must be a tool, without feelings and emotions. I agree, Naruto nodded. But only on a mission. In life, a shinobi must remain a person who remembers what he is fighting for. After all, it is feelings that give us the strength to fight until death. Nonsense. I'm ready to die for Konoha. But not just for the sake of the idea. My mother and my comrades live here, and it is to save them that I am ready to give my life. Naruto spoke very seriously. His words sounded convincing even for such a snob as Danzo. However, the Rasengan in the boy's hand seemed no less convincing to him. The leader of Root, reluctantly, then released both of them, although he expelled them from the detachment. And of course, that same evening he informed the third Hokage about everything. Old man Sarutobi then scolded Naruto, scolded him, and then, when Danzo left his office, he handed Sai and Shin armbands with a protector. It was these two who made up the Team Naruto that the Hokage mentioned. True, the third has so far only entrusted the three of them with missions that do not require special secrecy. Still, putting masks on 3 kids at once was too much. When they grow up. Sai, Shin, I need your help, Naruto said, dispelling his technique. The brothers sighed with relief and trudged along, stretching their stiff limbs. What's the matter, Naruto-kun? Shin drawled with interest, looking over his friend's shoulder. I was given a task, he responded quietly. I'll tell you when we're alone. At home, Uzumaki and his friends were greeted only by empty rooms. The boy was not surprised, since his mother was often not at home, because, simultaneously with his own appointment, the third Hokage asked Kushina to return to duty. So one of the most powerful kunoichi of Leaf has been looking after the Genin team for 2 years now. The step was justified, because in this way the Hokage not only got another Zenin master at his disposal, but also made it so that Kushina had less to deal with her son, who sometimes returned from a mission very shabby. Look! Naruto handed over some of the folders to his comrades. My task is to identify the spy among the teachers of the academy. Look for suspicious facts in the biography, deaths of relatives, friends, inconsistencies in completed missions, and the like. We fussed with papers until noon. The guys accepted this setting of the task normally. They were not very sentimental in general. The preparation at Korn had an effect. Finally, Naruto came across one class Chunin. Iraka Yumino. It seems like our client. He attracted the attention of Shin and Sai, who had already finished their portion. My parents died in an attack by the Ninetales 12 years ago. It indicates that he may have suffered serious psychological trauma. He showed aggression and even hostility towards his comrades. Shall we take it? Sai asked seriously. No. Naruto shook his head. We must first take a closer look at him. Let's go. When they reached the academy, most of the students had already finished their classes, only the graduating class was still in the building. Waving at the line of Chunin leaving the walls of the educational institution, Naruto ordered Shin and Sai to follow them. They had a good command of artistic jutsu, so soon 1.5 dozen of their hand-drawn copies, along with the originals, disappeared into the shadows, following each teacher. Naruto remained to watch the school. About half an hour later, the doors of the academy opened again, and a whole crowd of children, the same age as Uzumaki, poured out. Naruto, I abstractly noticed that almost everyone had the treasured bandage with a protector in their hands. So there was an exam today? That's why they took so long. Guys, let's practice a little, was heard in the crowd. Shurikens there, let's throw them. And what? Someone answered him. Let's. And in a noisy, friendly crowd everyone moved towards the wooden targets. Only one child, a dark-haired boy with a blue scarf around his neck, walked with his head down. Another boy, judging by the symbol on the black shirt from the Uchiha clan, patted him on the shoulder in sympathy. Don't be sad, Konohamaru. You'll definitely pass next time. Yes, I know, Sasuke. he sighed sadly. It's just that you all have already become ninjas, and I still walk around without a bandage. Irika knocked me down on purpose. Mitsuki wanted to give me credit for the clone, but he didn't. The clone was bad, baby. Yes, he could have been more lenient, Sasuke agreed. Now let's go. He dragged him to the others. Let's throw shurikens. You need a distraction. Naruto looked at the boys with an interested look. The name of his suspect flashed through their conversation. Not bad. The psychological portrait of Taiyunin was already drawn up in his head. The guy who lost his parents grew up alone, gradually harboring a grudge against the village. When the opportunity arose, he began to transmit secret information to enemies, and at the same time taking out his anger on his students. It seems that it turned out well. But first, you had to at least look at him. When the desired object left the academy, Naruto quickly created a shadow clone, which he assigned to monitor the Chunin. He himself decided to hang out on the training ground. Maybe someone else will say something about the teachers. After all, the children noticed a lot, they just didn't say much to the adults. Maybe one of them saw or heard something when he returned in the evening for a forgotten notebook? Meanwhile, the kids were already throwing their shurikens at the pillars. The undisputed champion among them was that same black-haired boy from the Uchiha clan. I think his name was Sasuke. Naruto vaguely remembered that his neighbors had 2 sons, and apparently this was the youngest of them. The brunette, under the loving glances of the girls, sent all his projectiles right to the target. He seemed to be popular, and judging by his satisfied smile, he was aware of his popularity. Sasuke-kun, you did great! The girls screamed. You will become the most powerful ninja. Yeah, it will. The boy with the blue scarf grinned. Only after me. After all, I intend to become the coolest Hokage. In response, he heard only chuckles and hooting. Indeed, Konohamaru was the only one missing his headband. Wanting to stop the ridicule, the boy angrily threw a shuriken at the post, intending to surpass his friend. But the projectile stuck far from the target, which caused a new wave of laughter. In order to distract the audience from his friend's failure, Sasuke threw 3 shurikens one after another, precisely at the target, and the hooting gave way to applause. Everyone rushed to shout and praise the Uchiha. But the next moment, one single shuriken pierced the target with great speed, literally cutting all the previous ones, and pierced the pillar so much that its rays appeared on the other side. The guys fell silent in fear, turning their gaze from the damaged target to the boy who was lazily leaning against the wall. They looked in surprise at an unfamiliar boy their age, but already with a ninja headband, which was lowered and covered his right eye. Naruto-kun! Came from somewhere in the crowd. Uzumaki recognized Hinata with restrained surprise. Hyuga, the same girl he saved 2 years ago. Ignoring the frozen kids, Naruto moved towards the pillar. Hinata, Sasuke addressed the girl. Do you know this guy? The girl nodded embarrassedly, and, looking at Uzumaki's back, quickly looked away, blushing heavily. Everyone looked at the unfamiliar boy in surprise, who was just trying to pull out the stuck shell. Some recognized the clan symbol on his back, but no one said a word in his direction. Everyone just stared in surprise. Although, while the kids were constantly watching him pull out his shuriken, Naruto, the blonde's clones freely hung seals of the subconscious on their backs. Without saying a word to anyone, Naruto, nodding to Hinata, who blushed even more, walked away from the academy, at the same time dispelling his technique. And, as Naruto believed, it was not in vain that he looked into the subconscious of the students with the help of seals. Of course, he received a severe headache along with a lot of unnecessary information. But he still managed to find something out in the head of that boy with the scarf, as he learned later. Konohamaru Sarutobi, the grandson of the 3rd Hokage, was revolving around the same image. After a failed test, the examiner took him aside and advised him to steal the forbidden scroll from his grandfather's residence. They say that having studied the techniques from there, he will definitely pass the test. The mind seal technique was weak, so Naruto was unable to see the examiner's name. But what's interesting is that his main suspect was one of those who accepted this test. Now Naruto had no doubt about the spy's identity. Jumping from tree to tree, he scanned the forest in search of the boy. Behind, in the village, the quiet sound of a signal bell could be heard, signaling an emergency. It looks like the guards have already noticed that someone has embossed the scroll. And apparently the ANBU were already on patrol. Well, we need to hurry up. Finally, Naruto, noticing people flickering ahead, stopped, sitting in the crown of a tree. He rarely gave in to emotions, but now his face stretched out in a grimace of complete surprise and incomprehension. Iruka, the same Taiyunin whom he came to catch, all beaten and bloody, obscured the third's grandson. The boy cowered in fear, hugging the huge scroll that he had stolen from his grandfather, and without looking away, looked at the group of shinobi that surrounded them. And at the head of this group was Mitsuki, Naruto whispered, hitting himself on the forehead. What can I say? He's an idiot. His excessive zeal made him act too logically, forgetting about many subjective factors. Reading the file of the second examiner, he, seeing an absolutely clean dossier in front of him, could not even think that he would be the traitor. Okay, Naruto, he said to himself, taking out a stack of seals. Let's go get better. Otherwise the Hokage will scold you. It all took no more than 30 seconds. A seal was stuck on the back of each unsuspecting enemy, which immediately blazed with blue sparks, bringing its new owner to his knees with searing pain. When the out-of-breath Hokage with the ANBU team appeared from behind the trees, from under the tanuki mask, as always, the following was heard. Mission accomplished, Hokage-sama. There were no problems. Chapter 5. Itachi walked peacefully towards the training grounds, intending to tell his students the good news. But his team, apparently, didn't really want to hear anything from their mentor. As soon as they saw Itachi, the guys immediately attacked him. The Uchiha sighed heavily, mentally scolding himself. Who else could he blame? He himself, mindful of his age, offered the guys communication, as equals, without any sensei and senpai. Now get over it, Itachi. Hunting the captain. For Naruto, Sai and Shin became an integral part of their training, the plan of which did not often coincide with the plans of Itachi himself. With a lazy backflip, the Zenin avoided the air wave that Naruto sent at him. But Sin did not allow him to stop and counterattack, manically moving his brush over the scroll, from which mice with explosive seals on their backs jumped out in a frenzied stream. At first, the Uchiha simply avoided the explosions by jumping, but when he realized that there were too many seals, he stopped. Element of fire! Itachi exclaimed, folding the seals. Fire whirlwind! The guy blew, and in the blink of an eye he was engulfed in a high column of flame. The flames slowly rotated, drawing in air and becoming stronger. The mined animals, falling into it, were incinerated, and the seals detonated. When the last mouse fell, Itachi turned off the fire. Not bad, he said, nodding respectfully to Sin and Naruto. Well done for not forgetting about teamwork. He didn't have time to finish. The ink snake that silently approached him made a lightning-fast throw, and the Zenin found himself tightly bound with hissing bonds. Itachi tried to free himself, but the snake squeezed him harder. Not bad at all. Sai, come on, come out! Sai, pleased with himself, jumped out of the bushes. Well, Itachi only saw him briefly, and in the meantime he went into ambush to attack at the right moment. Fine. The guy smiled. He was glad that he was able to stage a team effort. Even though the guys were friends, he still had to try to teach them to work harmoniously. Naruto especially caused a lot of problems in this regard. For the blonde, working as a team meant that he fought, and the others covered him, that is, they stood on the sidelines and did not interfere. The habit of working alone affected him. But as the Uchiha could now see, Naruto began to trust his comrades more. Very good. Well done. Itachi smiled contentedly. It's just that. He didn't have time to finish when he suddenly disappeared with a pop. The guys were not at all surprised that they caught a clone, not for the first time. Their faces remained calm even when each of them had a kunai pointed at their throats. Immediately 3 completely identical Uchihos appeared right behind the boys. Give up, said Itachi, who was holding Naruto. Itachi, Uzumaki shook his head. I already told you that I'm not used to giving up. With these words, Naruto now disappeared. He was followed by Sai and Sin, who spread ink across the grass. The Uchiha trio chuckled in unison. And the next moment shurikens stabbed into everyone's back. 2 clones immediately disappeared, but the real shinobi managed to replace himself with a stone, which, however, immediately shattered into pieces. Naruto fought seriously, not hesitating to strengthen the blow with the help of the elements. Having appreciated the maneuvers of his charges, Itachi, as soon as he landed from the next somersault, clapped his hands. Under his measured clapping, a satisfied trio emerged from the thickets. Well done, the Uchiha nodded. If it weren't for business, I would gladly continue. But I have an announcement for you. The boys surrounded their mentor and immediately began to listen. As you already know, Itachi continued, an open Chunin exam will be held in Konoha. All 3 nodded. I nominated you to participate. To say that the boys were happy would be an understatement. Sai and Sin broke out into wide smiles. Even Naruto allowed himself to smile. And what? Of course they were pleased. Thanks to Kushina, all 3 knew what the exam really was. And they were happy to defend the honor of their village in battle with shinobi from other countries. In addition, a possible promotion in rank could open up broad prospects for them. Naruto still shuddered when he remembered his courier activities for the 3rd. Still, Taiyunin is the leader of the group, and he is unlikely to be forced to do any nonsense. Here are your permissions. He handed the boys 3 identical pieces of paper on which their personal information was indicated. Sign them, and if you want to participate in the exam. Itachi chuckled at these words. Then tomorrow at 1600 hours come to room 301. That's all. Now go back to the village. Eat. The next day. Naruto, Sai and Shin did not like crowds, so long before the start of the exam they were already sitting in the right audience, waiting for the appointed hour. With bored glances they watched as the room filled with genin who expressed a desire to take the test. As it turned out, this year there were quite a few applicants, no less than 100, which might have been surprising if Naruto had not known that not only leaf genins would participate in the exam, but also rain, grass, sound, waterfalls and sand. Of course, Uzumaki knew why this exam was actually being held and what goals were being pursued here. But he was wary of all foreign shinobi, even if they were all simple genin. The boy saw them only as potential enemies, whose presence in the village jeopardizes the safety of Konoha. Although, you only had to take one look at the group of newly minted leaf ninjas, who, to the surprise of many, were allowed by their mentors to take the exam, to doubt that the main threat to Konoha was external enemies. Naruto watched with some irony at these children, who only knew what to yell at each other and find out who was the coolest. What the hell kind of shinobi are they? They're just children. Yes, he was their age, but unlike them, he already knew what it meant to be a real ninja, because he already had the blood of the village's enemies on his hands. I can't believe that these. Sai waved his hand contemptuously towards recent graduates of the academy. Will take part. They will be carried forward feet first after the first serious battle. What difference does it make to you, brother? Sin responded lazily. Let the kids play with fire, you'll see, they'll get burned once, and it'll teach them something. Naruto, without interfering with the brothers' conversation, listened to the conversation of those very newcomers and some dull guy with glasses, who, judging by the phrase dropped, was taking the exam for the 7th time. It seems that he spent all this time not in vain, having managed to collect certain information about the participants. There was something for even beginners who participated for the first time. A guy Naruto knew, Sasuke, just decided to take an interest in some of his opponents. Who are you interested in? The bespectacled man asked, shuffling the information cards. Rock Lee, Gaara the Hermit. Sasuke began listing impatiently, rubbing his hands. And Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto involuntarily leaned forward upon hearing his name. I wonder why the hell the Uchiha is interested in him. Haven't you forgotten that ill-fated shuriken? Naruto was not very interested in the data on the first 2 boys, so he simply ignored them, but it was interesting to hear about himself. Uzumaki. Naruto. The bespectacled man read from the card. By the way, he's the same age as you, but he received the title of Genin 2.5 years ago. Wow! The boy scratched the back of his head in surprise. 43 C rank missions, 26 B, 8A, and even 1 S rank. Yes, he is unrealistically cool. The guys looked at each other in surprise and even a little fear. It seemed like the blonde's track record had left them in a state of shock. This reaction amused Naruto. Although, he could not imagine where the guy with glasses, who introduced himself as Kabuto, could get such information. From his personal file? Perhaps. But it was still a little alarming that some genin, albeit from Konoha, had such information. Teammates are certain Sai and Shin, surnames are not indicated. Kabuto continued meanwhile. Mentor Uchiha Itachi. Brother? Sasuke whispered in surprise. How so? I didn't even know he got the command. Well, apparently he decided not to advertise it. Kabuto shrugged. Strange, but judging by the records, this Uzumaki of yours completed only 10 missions as part of the team, and almost all of them were of rank C. He looked into the eyes of the black-haired boy with a long look. Perhaps there is some kind of inconsistency here, but if you still believe this, then it turns out that Naruto carried out his missions alone. Then Naruto, having lost all interest, decided not to listen, especially since there was nothing else to listen to. One of the newcomers shouted in a wild voice that he would kick everyone's asses. The older guys from Sound tried to explain to him with their fingers that he was wrong. Kabuto wanted to intervene, but received points. The squabble ended only with the appearance of the examiners, who quickly put both the newcomers who had lost their fear and the guests who had forgotten where they were in their place. Good afternoon, said a tall man in the center of a group of Taiyunins. His face was all striped with scars, which only complemented his harsh coloring. Actually, from them, as well as from the black cloak of the interrogation department, Naruto recognized this man. I am Ibiki Marino, the first stage examiner. Good afternoon. Well, let's start the first test. Making sure that everyone was listening attentively, Marino nodded to himself and then continued. Now you all hand in your applications here. In return, everyone will receive this number. He showed everyone a wooden token with a 1 stamped on it. And will sit in the designated place. Then we will give you the test options. From that moment on, Naruto, one might say, switched off slightly, acting as if on autopilot. I changed my permit to a license plate, sat down in my seat, and got a test. Then there was a sensual speech from the head of the torture and interrogation department about the rules, points and sanctions, which Naruto openly ignored because he had already heard all this retold from Itachi when he himself took the test. Ibiki Marino was also the examiner of the first stage. At first, Uzumaki had the idea of openly spitting on the entire test, scribbling the paper with all sorts of nonsense, but then his conscience somehow very unpleasantly pricked him. Still, he is not just some genin, he is Uzumaki Naruto, son of the 4th Hokage. He can't just play the fool. So the boy seriously took up solving the problems, and quite successfully, even if they were designed for ready-made Taiyunins. True, it couldn't have happened without help either. Half an hour later, ink flies had already flown into his sleeve, which quite quickly, and most importantly imperceptibly, became even lines of text under the strokes of his pen. It seems that Sai and Shin have already found someone to cheat from, and thanks to their artistic jutsu, they were not noticed. In any case, his comrades and himself were still sitting in their places, unlike the losers whom the examiners periodically kicked out the door. After an hour, there was the notorious 10th question, which was incredibly pressing on the psyche, which had its own special rules, because of which no less people were eliminated than for cheating. Marino took a theatrical pause, waiting for someone else to leave the audience, after which he announced with a smile that everyone who remained had passed. The cries and claims of the genin, enraged by the hassle that the head of the torture and interrogation department gave them, as well as Marino's own lecture on the importance of information and fortitude, were interrupted by the wild roar of a broken window through which something flew in like a whirlwind. "This is not the time to relax, young people!" something yelled at the whole class. "I am the examiner of the second stage of Mitarashi Anko. Oh well, all lively behind me!"